Hey everybody, it's me. Let's see, where's my driver's license? I forget what my name is. I'm Grandmaster Ben Feingold, and you are not. We have 4 people in on the Zoom call, and we have 4 people that are here in the live audience. I would call that fortuitous. Yep, that means lucky. Anybody? What movie am I quoting?
I always forget.
Terrible. The answer is Fries. And the actual answer is Tombstone. Okay. And then the response was, yeah, I know what it means. Interesting scene. So today we're going to talk about Tal's best sacrifices. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean Tal won? So that's a good sacrifice. He sacrificed and he won. Or does it mean the engine says good sacrifice? The answer, of course, is Fries. Yeah. It's a little of both. Now, I've talked to Yasser Serouan many times, and we talked about Tal once, and he said Tal's sacrifices weren't as bad as people thought they were when they were bad, because he always had the draw in hand. He was like, I have a perpetual, but I'll win if I don't have a perpetual. No, I didn't believe that. I thought Tal thought he was doing well when he sacrificed. But the first example proves me wrong and proves Yasser right. So with this anecdotal evidence, you know that he's always going to be right. Okay, so the reason Tal was a genius and one of the top 20 players of all time, if not the top 10, definitely top 20, top 10 maybe, was not only was he great like every other great player, but he understood positions with material disparity, and he could calculate really, really far ahead and accurately, just like all of you can do. And one of the problems that people have in getting better at chess is they see brilliant sacrificial attacks by any strong grandmaster, and they say, yeah, I want to do that. But they can't calculate more than one move ahead, so that doesn't work out. They just lose all their pieces. And the other problem, which is a bigger problem, is a lower rated player would rather sacrifice and win brilliantly than win an 85 move endgame. So they're sort of looking to sacrifice. And top players don't look to sacrifice. They sacrifice when they think it's correct. And winning is winning. If it's 85 moves, if it's 20 moves, you won. And if you could only win one way, then you can't be a world-class player. So first game I want to look at, which backs up Yasser's argument, is Tal Portish from 1965. They played a candidates match. And this was from, I believe, a Caro-Kann, B10. That's a Caro-Kann. And White has the 2 bishops, and White's castled and Black hasn't. And it's White's move. So Tal doesn't look at his watch and say it's time to sacrifice. Okay. Tal says, well, if I don't sacrifice, my opponent's going to just be equal here. He's going to castle, and I got nothing. So the first thing Tal did was play an explosive move. The reason he played it was he wanted to prevent Black from defending against his attack. So he played c4. I thought he did. Okay, attacking the knight. And the best move for Black was played, but it allows a sacrifice, which the engine's not afraid of. But if you were a human, you'd be afraid of it. And he played knight to b4, attacking the bishop on d3. If the bishop retreats somewhere, then knight c2 forks the rooks. And the engine doesn't recommend c4 or the next move. And I don't think Tal was using the engine for obvious reasons. 1965. So, unless he was good friends with Claude Shannon, that engine probably wasn't so good. So, okay, so he played rook takes e6, just like you guys would play. And after the capture, Black has 3 legal moves. And Portish chose probably the worst one. So the truth hurts. Now, according to the supercomputers, this position is equal. And this backs up Serouan's theory that when Tal sacrificed, he had the draw in hand, but he would also win. And engine says king d8 is the best move, and it believes the game should end like this. And I'm sure that wasn't Tall's idea. Now, it could be Portish thought the rook sacrifice was crazy. I don't want to draw. I'm up a rook. And that could be why he didn't do it. Could be. Or it could be they both misanalyzed it. One way for white to try to win, because I was trying to win for white, the computer was laughing at me. And I installed that, a laugh track, so that play a bad move, the computer laughs at you. I was like, this move threatens checkmate. That's pretty good. Queen c7, I believe, is forced. Bishop f4, if you take the bishop, queen d7's mate. And then after queen e7, I gave up because that's the end of the attack and we're going to trade queens. So the engine doesn't like that for white. Then I thought of another idea, but thinking's not my strong suit. Checking and then trying to play rook e1 check, because that looks pretty aggressive and good. Well, you have to move the bishop out of the way, and wherever I move the bishop, although it still says it's a draw, the engine says this is a draw, knight takes d3, wins a piece, and stops rook e1 check. So to be perfectly frank, I don't know what Tal had in mind. I don't know why Portish didn't play king d8. It could be Portish thought, I'm winning if I play some other move, but he was wrong. He was very wrong. And it's hard to see like all the way to the end of the game. And something that some people would recommend, the super grandmasters usually don't do it, which is to trust your opponent. Okay, and I don't recommend trusting your opponent. If you're playing tall, maybe I'd make an exception. Maybe. I'd be like, well, this move seems to win for me, but I'll play the move that draws because Tal probably saw further than I did. But super grandmasters don't think like that. They calculate as best as they can and they believe in themselves, not their opponent. Okay, so instead he played king f8, and Tal wrote, and the engine does not agree, he said, I almost didn't sacrifice the rook because I couldn't see what to do against bishop e7. He said, then I realized, this is Tal writing about the game, bishop g5, queen c7, bishop g6 check, takes, rook e1, and he concluded that he was winning here. It's funny, if you don't play bishop g6 check, then in this position, black can play knight takes d3. But now if you play knight d3, I have queen takes g6 check. So Tal was a pretty good player. That's a pretty nice trick. Anyway, the engine says bishop e7 is okay, but he played king f8 instead. And where's the rest of the game? This isn't good. Oh, I went back too far. Okay. Yeah, he played king f8. All right. Now, if I had black and I wasn't playing tall, I'd probably think, I don't know, a guy sacked a rook for nothing. What does he do? And Tal had a really good imagination and really good calculating ability. And when I see this position, the first move I think of, even though it's not legal, is queen f7 mate. So I'm trying to figure out how to get my bishop on d3 involved. So what move did Tal play getting his bishop on d3 involved? C5. Oh, I'm sorry, he played bishop f4 first. I thought he played c5, but you're right. Bishop f4, threatening bishop d6, rook d8, and then c5. So c5 threatens the queen. If the queen moves away, there's bishop c4, there's bishop d6 check, there's rook e1, there's all kinds of good stuff. And Portish decided to be ahead material and stop the attack, which is what he did. And this is usually a good way to defeat an unsound sacrifice, is if you sacrifice yourself and end up still ahead material, that could end your opponent's attack. So he played the move, knight takes d3. He just took all of Tal's pieces. Takes, knight takes f4. Well, how's white going to mate black? White doesn't have any pieces. And this is why Tal was so great. He understood positions really well. that in the long run, he would be winning anyway because of his pawn on b6, the black king being bad, and the rook on h8 being bad. So he attacked the knight moved, and he took on a7. So if we do a material count, which is your favorite thing to do, white has a queen and 3 pawns for rook, bishop, and knight. Who's better in those situations? It depends. Probably more often than not, I would take the queen and the pawns. But more important than that, this pawn's on the 7th rank. So that's good. And this rook on h8 is no good. So because of that, white actually has a winning advantage. He played king e7, so his rook could get out. And white played the move b4, a very strange move. So he's thinking if Portish ever plays like rook a8, maybe he could play b5 later and try to loosen up this knight. And he wants to keep the king more tied in so the king can never run out. But b4 is not a move that I would ever consider. So, very strange move. Okay, rook a8, rook e1 check. Now that's the move I would consider. King to d6, b5. Amazing. So Tal's using his extra pawns to weaken black's king position. Rook takes a7, rook e6 check, and he was waiting for rook takes a7. That's why he didn't play this earlier. And, at some point, if we don't play rook takes a7, then b6 is just going to win, or taking on c6 and opening up black's king. This actually looks pretty safe, rook takes a7. Now, yes?
I don't understand why the knight didn't just take the pawn.
The knight didn't, on b4.
Yeah.
Yeah. b4, knight takes b4. That pawn's not super important from black's point of view. What's important is he didn't want his knight to be bad. Yeah. Like, okay. So here, white has 2 ideas. Since the knight's not on d5, we can try to checkmate him. Like rook e1 check and keep trying to checkmate him. The knight on d5 isn't defending. The other idea, which may also work, is the simple rook to b1, and you want to just completely win. That would require analysis because black can play rook takes d4. So I don't particularly think rook b1 works now, but I'm guessing rook e1 check has to be pretty good. Or am I good enough to play a8 queen and rook b1? Probably not. I don't really care about queening if I can play rook takes b7 check. Then I assume I'm just going to mate you. This would be an interesting move. Queen takes rook b1. If I play rook b7 check, I think I'm going to win. I don't think your king can survive that. c5 doesn't really do anything. If you play rook a4, I have the very funny move d5. Oh, I can just play a3. a3 is just simple. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to play rook takes b7 now, and then I won't have black there. Actually, this is a funny kind of tactic we see a lot. Somebody takes a b pawn, usually with a queen, then the rook attacks the queen and takes the other b pawn. Yeah. So I would never think of the move b4 if I was white, and I just see it. I still don't think of it. Okay. And so he took on a7. Now, in my opinion, that's a very bad move from Portish. And what I mean by very bad is I think he missed the tactic that Tal played. And I'm surprised because Portish is really good. So I'm surprised. If you guys missed the tactic, I'm not surprised. But if Portish misses it, I'm going to say time trouble. Yeah, they didn't have increment and delay then. Whatever time you saw, that's how much time you had. They didn't have digital clocks. So sometimes you're like, how much time do I have? Which basically won me 2 very important games. I was losing to Jan Elvest and his time ran out. And Julian Hodgson had mate in 3 against me and his time ran out. And they were both surprised. And I was like, yay. Because, no increment, no delay, analog clock. Confusion. Does anybody in the live audience or the Zoom audience see the winning tactic that White played?
I think it's B6 immediately.
Yeah, but thinking's not your strong suit. Yeah. What's your analysis after B6?
B6 knight takes, queen E6 check,
Yeah.
king C7, and there's like some check on F7.
Knight D7.
Yes, knight D7.
Yeah. All right. Well, somebody's talking in my ears. What's happening? That's exactly what the guy in the live audience said. Yeah. Then king C7, and if queen F7, knight D7. Black's probably winning there. Too much defense.
Queen E6 first, king C7.
See, this is why Portish played rook takes A7. He did this either win, but he's playing tall. When I show you the win, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's easy. But it's not easy. It's easy when you see it. When somebody shows you like, oh yeah, that was easy. This would be like a really difficult problem in like Puzzle Rush or Puzzle Battle. This would be one for the grandmasters. Yeah, I guess Portish was in time trouble, so I'll give him a break. If he wasn't in time trouble, I'm not giving him a break. He's too good to miss this. Luckily, everybody's missing it, so you can see how good Tal was. Because when Tal played B5, I'm sure he saw everything.
Queen G2 maybe?
This is a removing the defender tactic. I'll give you a little help. Queen G7 is winning, except it's defended by the bishop.
So rook E6 check.
Yeah, so rook E6 check, and rook takes F6. Then it's hard to stop Queen G7. Truth hurts. Yeah. And here he resigned because, I mean, yeah, I guess this is the best, so you don't lose your G-pawn also. But, all right. Yeah, it's going to be like a queen and two pawns, so rook and a knight, and White's going to queen his H-pawn. Yeah. But the thing is, Black's king was never safe after the rook sacrifice, the original one. I like the way rook takes E6 doesn't win, but this rook E6 does win. Most people don't keep playing rook takes E6 check, but some people do. So that was a sacrifice that Yasser would be referring to, that White had the draw all the time, but Portish made a mistake, so he lost. And it's also possible Portish thought he was winning after king F8. He's like, this attack doesn't work. And what's funny about this is, when you see winning tactics with super GMs nowadays, often it's blitz, bullet, rapid, etc. This was a candidates match for the world championship. So Tal wasn't kidding around. This is the most serious game Tal's played, and he sacrifices all his pieces. He doesn't care. Yeah. And they interviewed him after the game, and he said he literally didn't care. He kept saying it too. It was weird. Okay, hopefully somebody got that, like you, because you got it. Yeah. All right. And then let's see, is F11 work or it doesn't work anymore? Nah, I'm scared. Okay. So this is the game Tal versus Larsen. This was another candidates match. It was the next one, also in 65, right? Now, who likes the year 1965? Exactly. What's that?
It's a very good year.
That's right. Hopefully you guys understood why.
Your birthday?
What? Yeah, that's the year she was born. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so Tal won the match against Portish. Then he played Larsen next. In my opinion, without knowing I don't know anything, I think Tal had a really good score against Larsen. He beat Larsen Larsen played a little iffy, and that didn't work out against Tal. And you can see here, and I have a different opinion than most grandmasters do about these kinds of things. If I'm playing somebody between like 10 and 18 years old, I try to make the game very, very, very boring, very positional. And if I'm playing like an old man, then maybe some tactics and some opening theory. But these guys don't do that. Larsen's like, I'm Larsen, rawr. And I'm like, well, if you're playing Tal and Tal is sacrificing and mating you, maybe you should have played another way. But Larsen didn't do that. Larsen played what he played, And if the guy beat him, the guy beat him. That's what he did. Okay. So bishop d3, completing development. And in this position, Larsen played b4. And this reminds me of a famous quote from Mikhail, which I can't tell you now, because that would help you find the answer. I'll tell you after the move. So what do you guys think Mikhail did in this position?
E5.
What's that?
E5.
E5?
E5 to go like queen h3 or something. I don't know. Probably not.
What kind of analysis is that?
It's bad analysis.
Bishop takes g7 was suggested in my headphones. So basically you guys are sacking everything and hoping it works. And then if Tal did it, then it's got to work.
Knight d5.
What's that?
Knight d5.
Yeah, knight d5 is a Sicilian kind of move. It's the long-term compensation. And Tal said when he was older, he was a better chess player than when he was younger and world champion. He said, people nowadays don't let you play the typical knight d5, knight takes e6 sacrifices. They used to, because I kept doing them, and they wouldn't let me. Okay, but this is 65, so they let him do it. Knight to d5, got to take that knight, and white just has compensation. Now, white has too much compensation, but that's because he's a genius, right? Black has no attack on the queen side at all. White's king is perfectly safe, and black's pieces are terrible. So even though white's down a piece, look at black's queen. I've never been so mad. So knight d5 is an excellent move. It opens up this diagonal for the white bishop. This diagonal is already open. We can't block this diagonal with a knight or a bishop because the pawns are there. And white's just going to keep attacking. And black has no way to get his pieces over there. Terrible. Okay, Larsen played f5 to block everything up. So he's like, all right, if I block it up, I'll be up a piece. Otherwise, white's going to just keep attacking. Rook e1, attacking the bishop. But Larsen was one of the best players in the world, so he saw it. And I'll give you a little aside, because maybe like half of you don't know this story. When the USSR played the rest of the world in, 70, 71, nobody knows except everybody knows but me. And they were making the team list. Larsen said, I want to be board 1 ahead of Fischer. And Fischer said, okay. Fischer saying okay is weird. But he said, okay. Then about a year later, Fischer beat Larsen 6-0 in a candidates match. So maybe Larsen was wrong. All right, but Larsen played rook f7, defending his bishop. h4, and this is funny because most people, when they see a grandmaster sacrifice, they're looking for the immediate win, not I'll win in 20 moves. Like, well, you're down a piece, what are you doing? And unfortunately for me, this gives me bad memories. I lost a similar game to Sam Sevian when he sacked a piece, knight d5, and beat me like 20 moves later when I was under pressure the whole game. And it was sort of like this. It was a Sicilian. Okay. Bishop b7, got to develop those pieces. I think the main reason is he wants to get his queen over there. Queen f8, queen e8. Bishop takes f5 because he hasn't sacrificed enough. Terrible. And if we go back, obviously Tal saw bishop f5 when he played h4. He probably analyzed bishop f5, rook takes e7, and he thought these pawns could get attacked. So he just made sure he bolstered himself up a little bit. And the other problem is bishop's on c8. So after bishop f5, with the same idea, maybe black has some really tricky move like knight e5, attacking the queen, and then the bishop on c8 is going to be good all of a sudden. So once it goes to b7, he's like, all right, now I can take it. That bishop's over there on b7. Okay, so Larsen was probably happy to trade pieces, and Tal was probably happy to get his rook on e7, attacking the knight and the g-pawn. Knight e5, very tricky move, stopping rook g7, attacking the queen, saving the knight. Queen e4, threatening the rook, threatening the knight. Queen f8, attacking the rook and defending his own rook. Man, these guys are lucky. Now here, Tal took the knight. He could also take the bishop, well, but then black would play rook takes f4, and I don't know if white has any more attack, because the knight on e5 is a good defensive piece, blocking the bishop. Black has the f file, black can play rook e8. Tall's attack sort of over then. So he just wanted to keep attacking. Now, this is a very hard move to play. And when I say it's hard, you have to analyze everything perfectly. Otherwise, you lose all your pieces. That's annoying. So obviously, if queen takes rook, there's queen takes f5. So that's okay. And you have to analyze rook f1. And he played rook f4, which is even trickier. This is very confusing now. If the queen moves away, your rook on e7 is hanging. And I got to tell you, whether black played queen e7 here, or rook f1 check, or rook f4, Tall analyzed all of it. That's why he was able to sacrifice. He calculated, at that time, better than anybody else. So where does the queen move so we don't lose everything? Queen e3, right? And this is funny, because he played rook f3. So is it going to go queen e4, rook f4 draw? I don't think so. Queen e2, that's funny. Rook f4, queen e3, rook f3, queen e2, and you can't attack the queen anymore. That's very strange, but all right. Now, if you don't take the rook on e7, well, I'm attacking your bishop, obviously, but if this e-pawn takes on d6, you're going to have a tough time defending g7. I'm going to unleash this bishop. So they traded rooks. And in this position, white's up 2 pawns, so he should win just sort of normally, I guess. But it's Tall, he doesn't win normally. Takes, rook e1, pinning the pawn. Rook d8, takes, queen here. Now, most grandmasters, and by most I mean 90%, if they were white here, they would say, well, I'm winning, because I'm up 2 pawns, my king's safer, everything's good, and they would use their technique to win. They would just win slowly. And Tall didn't do that. Queen f4, rook f8. So he's playing for tricks. For example, if bishop takes d5, what's the winning trick for white? What's that?
Rook e8.
Yeah, rook e8 check. And if rook takes rook, the queen's hanging, and queen f8's even worse. Okay, so rook f8, queen e4 defending his pawn, b3 from Larsen. All right, let's see who the best tactician is of everybody watching, including you on YouTube later. Or is it you? They're on YouTube, right? Yeah, you guys are on YouTube. You guys are on Zoom. Okay, why did Larsen play b3? I mean, he wants to take on a2, but he knows that white's going to take the pawn. How does that help him? When you beat a super GM, they cause all kinds of problems. Those guys are annoying. The crowd is deathly ill. Silent. Family Guy joke. Anyone? You're forfeited, your phone went off. Happened to Tall all the time. Oh, wait a minute, no, it didn't. Man, nobody's saying anything. Terrible.
Okay, I have something. I guess if the pawn takes on b3, I guess he wants to go queen b4.
Yeah, you give yourself the b4 square. Because you don't care about pawns, you're already down a lot of pawns. You're just trying to attack the white king. Doesn't work, because trying's the first step to failure. But he tried. Yeah, check. Scary. You've never been so scared. Maybe you have. Okay, c3, and now Larsen was PO'd because of c3. And he went back because he can't afford to play queen b3. He's going to get checkmated. So everything he did didn't work. Although white's king doesn't, in the long run, have a safe place to go. Just going to have to sit in that area and hope that black can't attack. Bishop c5. I can't believe anybody other than Tall would ever play bishop c5 here. If you face bishop c5 on the internet, your opponent's cheating. It's 100% they're cheating. No grandmaster today would think of the move bishop c5, because white's up 3 pawns. Why is he sacrificing a piece? And Tall's like, that wins the quickest. Now, obviously, if I play rook e8 check, you don't want to play king f7, and you definitely can't after bishop c5. There's no king f7. So after here, if you don't take the bishop, it's rook e8 check resigns, because your king is getting mated, your f1 rook, everything's hanging. So the question is, what did Tal have in mind here? Why did he do that? Now, remember when black played b3, that gave him the b4 square? What square does this give white that wasn't as available in this position by the queen not being on d6 anymore? e6, that's right. So after check, king f7 allows queen e6 mate. If your queen was on d6, that wouldn't be mate. So the only move is, instead of king f7, rook f8, queen e6, you can't take the queen, your queen's not on d6. Put it in h, and now the pièce de résistance. Tal made a move and his opponent resigned.
Oh, I think it's queen f7.
Yeah, everybody said it. Yeah, you guys, yeah, queen f7. Now, that's the engine way to finish off the game, bishop c5, but this was in 1965. And this was a candidates match. So he wasn't like, oh, I'm 3 pawns off, let's play safe. That's not what Tal did. And a lot of you are confused now. You're like, wait a minute, what? What's going on? So obviously I'm threatening mate on f8, rook g8 doesn't help, rook e8 doesn't help. So queen f2 doesn't work, because when I take it, your rook can't take my queen, it's pinned. And queen takes d5 doesn't work, because your rook is hanging at the end. But again, if anybody did that on the internet and played bishop c5, they are cheating. They're cheating. Yeah. But this isn't a candidates match, and Tal still did it because it was the quickest way to win. And he's really good at calculating. And a lot of grandmasters would be like, I saw that win, but what if I miscalculate? Then I take a 3-pawn up position and I lose. And Tal's like, no, I didn't miscalculate. No, I know what's going on here. I mean, that's amazing. That's an incredible way to, It's hard to play a candidates match when a guy beats you like that. Sacrifices, gets ahead material, sacrifices again to beat you quicker. I mean, how are you supposed to beat that guy? And the answer is he did not. Larsen did not beat Tal. Man, truth hurts. Remember, this is Tal's best sacrifices, so that's... Okay, look familiar? Okay, Alexey Suetin, RIP, I played him before you guys were born, and I won. I can't believe I won. And when I played him, he was about 400 years old. So that's why I won. But if he was like 200, I would have lost. All right, so Tal ruined his pawn structure on the queen side so he could get an initiative and 2 bishops and et cetera, mainly et cetera. And any grandmaster today would take white here because we don't care about pawn structure anymore. We care about checkmating people. Yeah. Okay, so white has 2 bishops, more space. Black's king has nowhere safe to go, et cetera. And he played bishop to d7, developing a minor piece. I don't know, maybe he wants to castle queen side because his king side doesn't look too good. Okay, f5, go Tal. Didn't sacrifice anything yet. E takes f5, E takes f5, knight e5. Now, strategically, what Tal did was bad. He gave away the e5 square, and that knight's going to stay there. So he did it for tactical reasons. He calculated and said, oh, I'm winning. But a lot of times in this kind of position, when the knight can't move anywhere, you don't want to just let him go there and sit there forever, because that's exactly what he wants to do. Okay, it's Tal, so what did white do? I told you in an earlier game what he would do here. I'm a nice guy.
I thought it was f6, but never played.
Never play f6. Oh. Somebody on my headphones said knight e6. That attacks the queen, because I said so. And knight takes g7 is also annoying. And f takes e6 is illegal. Okay, so harsh. So he took with the bishop. And then he played g6 and said, get your queen out of there. Terrible. Yeah. And now Tal played the move you would have played, except you wouldn't have played it. That's the only difference. Otherwise, it's almost the same. No, that's what you would have played. Somebody said he takes f7 in my headphones. No, if you would have played that, then Tal didn't do it. It's a tautology. Any move you say has to be wrong. So you have to think of a move you wouldn't play. Now, you play like Tal. Trying to learn says bishop takes g6 because g6 is protected the most. That move has one problem with it. It's not good. Yeah, f takes g6 and that's it. No, you would play that trying to learn. I know you. This is Tal's best sacrifices. Come on, give me some credit. Now you're sacrificing. You don't know why you're sacrificing, but you're like, I don't know, Ben said sacrifice. Yeah, after rook takes f7 and the guy takes your queen, I think that's it. I don't think there's a follow-up. It's funny, when I show Morphy games and Tal games and Kasparov games, if I don't explain everything as I'm doing it, and I just show, when the game's over, they said, oh, I would have done that. Then when I ask people, they never would have done anything. So as long as I show them first, they would have done that. But now you're talking, the guy sounded so confident, it could be he was using an engine, but he probably wasn't. But he was really confident. The guy who said queen takes e5. He's like, queen takes e5, I got this. Bam. That's the first move you guys were thinking of. The knight on e5 defends the f7 pawn. Now it does not. You have to take the queen, obviously. Check. King h8 is risky. King f8 is risky because bishop h6 mate. So probably you shouldn't do that, right? No? Okay. Now, Suetin did something you guys would never do here. Never. He resigned, yeah. But let's not resign. Okay, well, obviously this is mate, so that's not good. Okay, if the king goes to the d file, let's go to the worst square first. Then I play bishop f5 check. And now you're like, I don't want to have black anymore. I want to have white.
Wait, bishop f5 check? What?
Yeah, it's check. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, he's like, well, how's that check? Yeah. Yeah, now you have to go here, and you have to go here. And I'm assuming every legal move wins. Bishop g5 has to win. Bishop c5 has to win. That's no fun. And if you play king to d7, this is the funny variation. Okay, bishop f5 check. There's one legal move. See, I give you guys an easy question. King c6. Bishop e4 check. Again, there's one legal move. And nobody can find it.
No, I guess it's
knight d5. All right, now we're going to vote. What's better, bishop takes d5 or rook takes d5?
Rook takes d5.
What's that?
Rook takes d5.
The internet says rook takes d5, but I like both moves quite a bit. Quite a bit. Bishop takes d5 obviously wins. The king goes to the d file. I play bishop takes rook check. I mean, that wins, okay? This move might be more brutal because I mean, white's threatening many checkmates. Many. Always play rook f6. In this position, is that what you meant, John? He said rook f6. Yeah, then king b7. Then I play king b7. I'm sure it wins, but every move wins. That's why he resigned. He's like, damn, every move wins. This move is annoying because I'm threatening rook d8 mate, rook d3 mate, rook d2 mate, rook d1 mate. That's annoying. I hate when people do that. Two bishops, what else? Right? Yeah. But also, bishop takes has to win. King goes to the d file, I don't know, and then check, and I'm up a lot of material, and I'm queening and I'm mating you. So queen takes e5 is amazing, and I think it's obvious when he played knight e6, He saw queen takes e5. Yeah, and his opponent went, say, what? Queen takes e5. And when I used to give chess lessons, private lessons, I told my students, look at all checks and captures. And they said, I don't want to. So, yeah, and there's a lot of checks and captures here. That's the craziest one, except for the ones suggested by the Zoom people. Yeah, but I mean, that's just amazing. Now, here's the amazing part. Not that he won, not that it was brilliant. None of these games, that's not why it's so good. It's so good because he's playing the best players in the world. These are all grandmasters. These are candidates matches. And he's just tearing them up like they're nothing, okay? And occasionally people say, a lot of people are saying that I diss Magnus Carlsen all the time. I don't do it all the time. Some days I take off because I'm taking a nap. And one of the reasons I diss Magnus Carlsen is I'm not dissing him. But everybody I know says, what year is it? 2021? Okay, the greatest player ever was Magnus. Okay, then in 10 years they'll say, oh, who's the world champion now? Okay, that's the greatest player ever. And the reason I don't agree with that is Magnus draws a lot, and when he does win, he doesn't win like this in any of the games. You know who did? Kasparov. People were afraid to play Kasparov because it's embarrassing. If Magnus beats you in 60 moves in an endgame, everybody's like, all right. And if you lose to Kasparov in 22 moves in one of the top 20 players in the world, that's embarrassing. And that's what Tal did to people. He beat these strong grandmasters, and you guys are like, those guys weren't so good. How about showing me a great defender who never loses? Who would that be? A great defender, world champion, never loses. Karpov and Smyslov are good answers. They're not the right answers, but those are good answers.
Is it Lasker?
What's that?
Lasker?
Bavanik's a good answer. I still have the best answer because that's my next game. You all forget. Tigran Petrosian. Also tall. No, Tigran Petrosian. If you beat Petrosian, you didn't. And if you did, you beat him in a million moves. I don't know, he fell asleep. I don't know. Okay, let's see how Tal does it. Okay, now Black's position's very suspicious, considering it's Petrosian, and this was in the Soviet Team Cup. Petrosian was world champion 5 years before this game, so he's still good, right? And as you all know, they don't know. Petrosian was beating Kasparov when Kasparov was good and Petrosian was old. Because Petrosian is a great defender, and Kasparov used to do that to people, but not to Petrosian. There's a very famous game, Petrosian walks his king up the board and beats Kasparov. Okay, but Tal's different. Okay, so Tal's position looks great. White's pieces are perfect, better than perfect. Black's pieces, very suspicious. Okay, and he played a defensive move that did not work out. Bishop e8, defending f7. Now his queen can move on the diagonal somewhere, f5, g4. Knight can go to c6 or d7. Black has the two bishops. So if white doesn't checkmate black, eventually black will probably be better with his two bishops. But right now, black's obviously in trouble because those guys aren't participating. So white can't just play boring here. White has to attack. How are you going to attack Petrosian when he protected all of his squares? This is protected twice. This is protected twice. This is protected twice. Queen protects this diagonal. Well, what do you want Tal to do? Give him a break. Okay, and so Tal won very, very quickly. What did he do? Right, that way he said knight g5 check. That's the best answer because you have two chances to be right. You can say which knight, so either one he's right. That's right, knight g5 check. And Petrosian's like, a free piece, that's just my game. Takes. Okay, he played king g8 because that defends f7 again. And king h8 is much worse because when I play queen somewhere to go to the h file, queen h4 is check. You don't want queen h4 being check because then queen h7 mate. So that's a better move. Okay. And Tal plays queen f4. And he says, I'll play queen h4, queen h7 mate. Fine. Okay, easy to stop except for one thing. All you got to do is stop queen h4, a queen h7 mate. That's all you got to do. And Petrosian found a way to do it. Played knight d7. He said, if you play queen h4, I'm going to play knight f6, defending h7. Also, I got all my pieces out now. My knight's out, my bishops. I'm good. Now, Tal didn't want Petrosian to play knight f6. So guess what move Tal played? Rook takes d7. Following my rule, always sack the exchange. Right. Bishop takes d7. He's trying to escape. And what he's hoping to do, which doesn't work, is if queen h4, he can move his rook off of f8. And then if queen h7, his king has a square, f8. So that's what he's hoping for. Here, threatening mate, I'll move my rook somewhere. If you play bishop f7 or queen h7, I'll play king f8. If he plays queen takes d7, he can't move his bishop. So, queen h7, okay. And obviously, bishop takes d7 undefends the pawn on f7. So bishop f7. Now, because Petrosian's better than most of you, even though he died, still better than some of you, he resigned here. Let's look at the two possible variations. King h8 here, that's the end of that variation. Okay. Rook takes, king h8, queen takes g6. Black has two normal, reasonable ways to stop queen h7 mate. Could somebody find one of them? Queen g8 and bishop f5 in my headphones. Right. Queen g8, queen here check is annoying. Right? So obviously the guys see that. By the way, I want to point out if king g8, then, the truth hurts. It really hurts. Yeah, that's some hurting. Yeah. All right. So bishop f5 is the other move. Now, there may be a mate I haven't seen. I doubt it, although maybe. But there's a very easy way to win here. And the reason it's easy is it's all check. When it's all check, even I can see it. If it's not check, I can't see anything. Do you see a way to win easily by giving checks? Right, that's you're 2/3 right. That's John Hanna, right? Sounded like your voice. Yeah. Okay, knight f7, one legal move. That's my kind of variation. Knight here check. So John was saying if here, then mate. I agree. So you would go here, I guess, to not get mated. Then after here, not only are you getting checkmated, you're down 3 pawns for nothing. Horrible. Yeah, so, black can't play this position. This is too ridiculous. In fact, I think black's going to get mated really soon because rook e7's coming. But okay, you're down 3 pawns for nothing. So that's Petrosian just getting destroyed, which is, that's not what he does. Otherwise, you wouldn't have heard of him. Well, maybe you haven't. But yeah, so Tal, in candidates matches, world champion candidates, his sacrifices worked against them too. Now, when I was younger, I heard two opposing viewpoints, okay? And you guys can decide who's right, because I'm too confused to decide. As you all know, there were 2 matches between Tal and Botvinnik, unless there were more, which is also possible. The first one, Tal destroyed Botvinnik and became world champion. In the rematch, Botvinnik destroyed Tal. And then Botvinnik was never world champion again, and Botvinnik kept winning and losing. I think because they're both named Mikhail, so they had a special bond. But anyway, here's what one person told me. Tal was better than Botvinnik, and he crushed him. But during the second match, Tal was very ill and was in the hospital all the time, which, by the way, describes almost all of Tal's tournaments. He'd go to the hospital between rounds. He was always sick. Yeah. Fischer visited him in the hospital during one tournament because he's in the hospital a lot. He had all kinds of issues when he was born, and then he exacerbated them by only drinking and smoking. He did nothing else. Didn't eat, didn't sleep, didn't really play chess much, but he drank and smoked a lot. And he died very, very, very young. And when he was in his early 50s, he looks like he was in his 80s. Didn't look good. If you see pictures of Tal looking really old, he didn't become really old. He died in his early 50s. So you can find those pictures though, and it's just a shame. Okay, then somebody else told me, oh, Botvinnik was better than Tal. He lost the first match. Then he realized all these tricky tactics that Tal played. He didn't let them play him in the second match. He made it all positional and strategical, so he just won easily. And what's funny is both matches were won sort of easily. Tal won easily, then Botvinnik won easily. I tend to go with Tal was sick, because Tal was really sick all the time. And in 1979, many years after Tal was world champion, he tied for first with Karpov in Montreal 79 with 10 out of 14 against all super GMs. So even when Tal was a lot older, he was pretty good. And the pièce de résistance for the lecture and for Tal, which almost none of you know, I've said it on stream like 100 times, but you guys weren't paying attention. In 1988, they had an event called the World Chess Festival. They had several candidates matches, 2 international open tournaments, I played in both, and the World Blitz Championship. The World Blitz Championship was a 64-player knockout. And everybody played, Karpov, Kasparov, and those guys were the weak players. Tough tournament. Anyway, the winner of the World Blitz Championship was Mikhail Tal. And that was in 1988. That was way, 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 way after he was world champion. Way. And the fact that he came ahead of Kasparov and Karpov. Anyway, in the final match, he won every game against Rafael Vaganyan, who you haven't heard of, a grandmaster from Armenia. But here's the funny part, is what first prize was. This was in 1988, and it was a blitz tournament. $50,000. In today's money, that'd be like 30 billion, I guess. I don't know. So those guys wanted to win the tournament. 50,000 in 1988 is pretty good. That was some good prize money for a blitz tournament that lasted like 3 days. But Tal won easily. He won all his matches easily. So, yeah. Karpov and Kasparov lost to different people. So, I mean, Tal was an amazing blitz player. He sacrificed in many of his games, and he was great at everything. And he's an underrated world champion because he was world champion for such a short amount of time. And that was because he was always very sick, in the hospital all the time, and didn't get to play at his best. Well, I hope you like Tal's best sacrifices. I know I did. He never sacrificed to beat me because I never played him. So I saved myself. Please like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And remember, the more you pay, the more you learn. So the person who learned the most this lecture was our sponsor. Right. Robert or Richard?
Richard Gordon.
Richard Gordon, that's what I meant. I was thinking of Commissioner Gordon. I don't think this guy's Commissioner Gordon. All right, so thanks to Richard Gordon for sponsoring the lecture. And because of that, he learned the most, but not live. He didn't watch it live because he didn't want to see all the mistakes I made. He wanted to watch the cleaned up version where they edited and everything I say is correct. Okay. All right, thanks for watching. Thanks to our audiences in the ether and in the room. And I'll see you guys for the next lecture. Bye, everybody.